way of getting stronger is inhibiting your body's protective mechanism. In your tendons, you have these organisms called the GTOs, Golgi tendon organs. Now, their role is sensing how much force the muscle has to produce. And if that amount of force exceeds what it perceives to be excessive, then it will inhibit, stop force production to protect you against yourself. Now, the bad thing is that those protective mechanisms are normally set at the very conservative level. That's because your body really doesn't want to get injured. And you have to convince it to be able, that it's able to use heavier weights without getting injured. Now, the average human being might be able to use about 30% of his strength potential as a result of those protective mechanisms. Now, if you get a certain lifting experience, maybe not like at a high level of strength training, but just regular weight training, you might work up to being able to use 40, maybe 45, 50% of your potential. But as you move on to more advanced strength training methods, lifting heavier and heavier and heavier weights, building up the tendons, because the thicker the tendons are, the less conservative the GTOs become. Because if the tendon is thicker, then it senses that, well, it will be harder to get it injured. So that will also contribute to making that mechanisms less protective. But as you build muscle, you build experience, you start to lift heavier weights, then you might be able to use 60, 65% of your potential. Very advanced strength training athletes could lift maybe 75, 80% of their potential, and world-class Olympic lifters, power lifters, strongmen might use 90% of their potential, something like that. Now, methods that will have the greatest impact on desensitizing the GTOs will be heavy lifting. Basically, the more your body becomes experienced with handling heavy weights, the more it is convinced that lifting heavy weights is fairly safe for it. So, for example, that's where partial lifts can come into play. Because partial lift will allow you to overload the muscles or the pattern more than using the full range of motion. Now, even though the strength gain should not, or in most cases will not carry over the full range, it will still have an impact on convincing or desensitizing the GTOs. That is the main benefit of partial lifts. So that is a way to speed up strength gains, but that is only to be used with high-level athletes. Why? Well, because if you are an intermediate lifter, simply lifting weights in the 90, 95, sometimes 100% range, the max effort method, will be enough to desensitize the GTOs. But when now you're working with an athlete who has years of strength training experience under his belt, has done maximum effort method for years, now his body is very neurologically efficient and is used to handling those heavy weights. The only way to give the body further stimulation or to desensitize the GTOs is to use an even greater overload. That's where the partial lifts come into play. But that is a very advanced training method. If you use that with athletes who have not fully used the first three ways of getting stronger, technical efficiency, building muscle mass, improving neural efficiency, then you will do more harm than good, and you will actually not benefit that much from the partial lift. The partial lift to desensitize the GTOs are only a tool to be used when you get no further GTO inhibition from regular, heavy, 90, 95, 100% range lifting, maximum effort method. And prior to that, hypertrophy work and technique work. So just because it's cool and it allows you to look badass in the gym doesn't mean that you should be doing it right now. It's a tool that has a specific purpose to give further progress by desensitizing the GTOs with athletes who can no longer desensitize them with regular strength training.